Vlad, man, it's great to have you on Beneath the Service Sessions. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah,
It's
you
been a
too,
long
mate.
time, yeah. We know each other pretty, like for a very long time, since the beginning of journey, Yeah. Good to see you
Yeah,
again.
yeah, exactly. I was going to do a disclaimer that we know each other. So
Uh,
if we go off topic, please forgive us. Yeah, we go way back. I was in the band back then, and it was the same time that Besomora started, and we just spoke briefly that we did a show together. We were looking at old photos, realized we did the show. I got to say that was a good gig. I remember when Besomora played. You guys were before us, and I said to myself, "Fuck, man, how do we go? How are we gonna how are we gonna do it? Because you had a great performance." I was thinking to myself, "Fuck, man, we've got a big shoes to fill," and that
yeah,
was like this back in 2000. When was that gig? 2021?
2022.
Oh,
Did you
22,
guys play
wasn't it?
after us? Did you guys
Sorry.
play after? Did you guys play after us? Or
Yeah, we played after you.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, Toronto were headlining that show. Yeah, I think we played the
yeah.
second. Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. No, it was good. Actually, it was busy. I remember the venue was, what's the capacity of the venue? Like 70 people, 80 people?
Yeah, they moved now.
Yeah.
They moved now, so they've actually can fit more larger. But it was actually good at the. It was Diamond Dogs in Dapto.
Yeah, that's the one. I know they moved the location. I haven't been there since then. So, but yeah, it was good. Actually, we stayed there overnight. There was lots of vodka shots. I remember that. Uh, we already were like, partying. I remember at the venue. And then I think around midnight we finished, went back to our cabin, and then just continued. It was fun. Woke up next day like fresh. Woo! Let's go back home.
Man, if I knew you stayed, I would have asked you to come and join us. We'll hang.
Yeah, well, look, I think we met each other back then. Like, everyone was just like, "Oh, where are we doing? Where are we going?" And then I think at some point, just everyone looked a bit tired, and then someone had to go, and someone like was going back to Sydney, I think, and someone stayed there. So yeah, but anyway, it was good night, man. I still remember it. One of the first ones actually we ever played. Probably the third or fourth gig we've done at that time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were doing that year. You guys were doing a lot of gigs back then.
Jesus, a lot. I think we played.
It's like in so many shows.
Yeah, it was we started playing. The first gig was in February at the Frankie's, yeah.
Yeah.
So 24th of Feb, I think that's where the first show we had. And then after that, we played like 20 gigs or something. Every second week we had the show. Because we had no one knew us, right? We just like, all right, we need to like go out there and show ourselves, and prove that we can play, well. And also that was good practice, to
Mhm.
perform in front of people. I think that was the main thing. That's why we threw ourselves, and plus we had more time back then. And yeah, we took this opportunity to, play a gig every second week, man. Mad.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We'll probably touch more on it on the performance and the evolution of the band.
Yeah.
We'll go, but you try. I remember that first year, you guys went a lot along down the East Coast, doing
Yeah.
a lot of shows. Recently, you went to you went outside the mainland and you did a weekend tour at Tasmania. How did that go? And what were some of the highlights?
Actually, it was pretty interesting in experience. First of all, like we haven't traveled for a long time, and we only like played a few gigs in Sydney for last probably couple of years, I would say. And then first time when one of my mates like approached us saying, would you guys be interested in going to Tassie, to play there? And we were just like, fuck, we never played there, man. Let's go. Yeah, look, it was lots of challenges, oh God, like since the whole trip was just a challenge. And we some of us missed a flight. That was me and Matt.
Oh,
And then that wasn't a big problem because we straight away rescheduled it, like there was other flights going that way anyway, so it was good. But they lost her guitar, and they only brought it back to home. The only I think they left it in Melbourne somehow. So and then they brought it to Tassie, like to Hobart, where we had the first gig, probably 2 hours before the show. Yeah, so we got it back,
oh,
and I was
good.
ready. I was thinking like, okay, what I'm doing now? The plan B was like to borrow someone's guitar, And a couple of guys already offered that. I was thinking, cool, man, I will do that. Or and I could be just a vocalist, Why?
Yeah, yeah,
So the first gig was in Hobart, yeah, just a warm up gig. We played like a small venue called Republic Bar, and that was just like just a warm up show to see what happens next, and then we went to a different location in Sprayton, which is close to town called Devonport. So that
yeah.
was like a distillery where we played there, and also that was they organized like a proper metal festival there in Tassie. It
Yeah.
was pretty cool. It was cold, man. It's cold as fuck. It was 4 degrees or something by the time we were playing. Uh,
Wow. What,
yeah,
14 degrees?
no, 4 plus.
Oh, 4 degrees. Fuck, that's cold.
Yeah, I know, dude. I had to switch on my Russian thing and again, like, ooh, like, yes, I can do it. So, no, man, it was just, yeah, it was mad. And, but the kids were crazy then, man. It's just like, wow, they had so much passion, man. They were just, everyone was just moshing, just going wild. There's like mud everywhere, like in front of the stage, and just kids just jumping into the mud, like, well, it's insane, man, insane. Um, and yeah, well, very exhausting trip, I would say, also because we had to move from one location to another, as you have to drive in Tassie, it's not like, like, I don't know, playing in Sydney and going from Newtown to, I don't know, I don't know, to Penrith, like you can
Yeah,
still
yeah.
still a bit close, but over there, yeah, you have to travel a bit. But yeah, response from people was amazing, and people bought our merch, and then promoters and other bands. They were just was super down to earth guys. We spent great time with them, so we have a few good friends now in Tassie.
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
good, good, man. Good. For those who haven't experienced it, what's the metal scene like in Tasmania compared to the mainland
It's
from
smaller.
here? Yeah,
First
yeah,
of all, it's smaller, but people are so like keen, they love when if someone comes there, and then the gigs happening. Yeah, it's just a smaller crowd.
yeah,
Yeah, and in the place we played in the first night in Hobart, the capacity was probably like, I don't know, like probably 80 people.
yeah,
Yeah, but we saw some posters there. There's like some like indie rock bands playing there. I saw a poster of the band called British India. It's like an indie rock band.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, and then look, that's like they've been playing for like at least 15 years, and then they had a show at the Republic Bar, which is a small venue, and I understand why, because I think the guys are from Melbourne, and then Tassie obviously is a smaller place, and you can expect less crowd. Also, there was what's it called, Dark Morpher Festival happening on that day where we were playing there.
yeah,
So actually, that's why we weren't sure if many people would turn up. So,
yeah,
and then still people came, they still enjoyed the night, and yeah, so people were happy seeing us for the first time, and yeah, look, I think it was a good outcome, even though we got a bit exhausted by end of the trip, and then had to go back to work, and just yeah, it always happens, man. Every time I come back from tour, it just you want to chill, but you have responsibilities. You have to go to your work, and just go back to this your routine, which is hard, after this, even like even a couple of days of touring, man. It's like it's really sometimes it's hard to switch back on, to
yeah.
your routine, that yeah. But it's like I think it's one of the probably main disadvantages of touring, like yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I've never experienced the touring life, but yeah, like even, like on the weekends when you play gigs, you feel like, fuck, you're like it's there, it's a dream. You're like you're reliving that moment.
Yeah,
But then reality sinks in because we have to go to work the next day.
yeah,
That's many facts that not just us in Australia, but many of most of the bands around the world that are doing underground metal, man. So
that's
it's a
true.
reality, but it's rewarding when you do get a tour because you got to enjoy those kind of moments, man. Because don't know when the next one's going to happen.
That's true. You have to use the opportunity and enjoy it the most, But I think what I understand, more you on tour, more you get disconnected, from your life. I'm talking about your normal day-to-day life,
Yeah,
and that's why when you speak to like bands, and that, let's say they tour for like 3 6 months,
yeah,
and it's hard for them, you see that, they're already exhausted, and then imagine like you tour for like 6 months, go back home, and
yeah,
life moved on kind of already over there, right? And then
yeah,
you you back, trying to catch up with your day-to-day life, man. It's really hard. But I think good memories are very important. After the tour, you always like remember that, you always cherish all that, and you have good videos and photos, and you
Yeah.
happy, that you achieved that. It's a challenge, I must say.
Yeah, all good, man. Like we got you here today because Devotion to the Fear, your upcoming EP, is going to be released on September
Yep.
the 18th. Now, I was lucky enough to be invited by the band and yourself
Yeah.
to the listening party, which was held at Unreal Studios, which is owned by Andrew. So I'm not sure if Andrew's going to watch this video. Hi, Andrew. Vlad made me wear the hat.
Yeah, Andrew, you're a legend.
Uh, this clever. I put it on. I thought, oh, you know what?
Yeah, that's the
Let's,
hat from that was actually first merch from
yeah.
this EP. That's where the logo is a bit different, it's red color
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
yeah, it looks exactly what you see it on the EP cover. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit upgrade from the old one.
Okay. Yeah, there is a bit of involved with the logo.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
dive in.
yeah.
But, that was in August last year, the listening party.
Hmm?
So it's been a year since before the EP's release. Can you take us through what happened during that time and why the release took longer than expected?
Yeah, so it wasn't perfect timing because we were heading towards end of the year. That
Yeah,
was really like, I think late August, I think September, I can't remember what was the exact date. But yeah, so basically we only had what, like 3 months, full months, before end of the year at that time. And then we realized, okay, if we push ourselves hard, like, and release it, let's say in December, which we did with the previous EP,
yeah,
uh, and that was already December, right? And look, you know what happens like towards the end of the year, and everyone's busy. That's Christmas happening. When everyone's busy with their own business, and that's why promotion wise, it wasn't a great move.
yeah,
So we decided, okay, so maybe just like we're in the beginning we were very ambitious, like yeah, let's do the party, and then
yeah,
let's release like an EP, and but also we wanted to film a couple music videos as well. And that's why that we didn't have much time to to basically to achieve all that. So we decided, okay, let's just organize all that for next year, play a couple of shows, and make sure we have everything ready before release. So the original plan is to release that EP was, well, end of the 2025, and then we moved it, I think, to June, and then we started working, with Mila, right? So we had a chat with him, and he actually uh, gave us a piece of advice saying, like, look, just no, don't rush, man. You just
yeah,
make sure you have everything organized, and then you can spread out this promotion campaign for the like next 3-4 months, and you're gonna have better outcome.
yeah.
And that's why I listened to him. I said, yeah, you making a good point, and that's why it took us so long. But as you know, we could have released that within a week. It's easy. Upload it on DistroKid. Here you go. The songs are there. But the promotion is like the most challenging thing. If you not successful with that, you miss the opportunity. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's a good. It's yeah, I guess yeah. Now we understand, like because when you do the recording, when you put your music, you put your stuff out there. You know, especially with the ones that are brand new with the bands, when when you write, you're very excited because you just want to get it out there.
Yeah.
But once it's out there and it's just dropped. And at the same time, the reality is that, probably what I've learned through working on the opposite end of the band, especially in
Mhm.
media,
Yeah.
there's always releases. There's about 20, 50, 100 releases every day
Yeah.
around the world, so, and they're all going through, and basically these bands put in, and sometimes it's best to wait because yes, you've got the product. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes the longer it is, the more of a campaign you can focus on that campaign. You don't have to rush because if it's, as you said, if it's not planned, it can be the return investment could not become what you want it to be.
Yeah.
So, and I think that Mueller, he does a great job with Credit
Mhm.
Etiquette PR.
Yeah.
He you gave me some great advice, man, because from our end, when we looked at your press kit, we're like, wow, man, this is like really organized stuff there. And I just got to follow up as
Mhm.
well. What we listened, because I listened to it, and you're like telling me you like it, you like it, you like it, and I'm like, man, I'm only heard two songs. I'm not going to tell you until I listen to the whole thing. Then I'll tell you if I like it or not. But you
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
when I listened to it, now it was great, and I told you, I said, dude, that is fucking awesome. Now, since the listening party, and you were
mhm.
telling us about, why you got a bit more, how you're going to wait longer than expected,
Yeah,
due to the constraints that you've gone, you explained earlier. Did the mix got changed since the listening party, or is it still the same?
it's still the same. We haven't changed that. It's the same, yeah, 100%.
Oh, awesome, man! Because it was like that's where we probably dive in a bit more with the EP because because I when I did listen to it at the first time, there was like anxiety from, I guess, from yourself and from the rest of the boys, because you had a lot of friends that came into the listening party and you wanted to see the reaction, and you had someone like myself there, so you're like, is Headbangers gonna dig it? Or when you had Hot and Heavy, same thing.
Yeah,
So when we told you that it was fucking awesome, this is fucking great, and then you go, oh, did you know in this and this, and like, oh yeah, cool, like we're all so excited. So that's why I asked you that question earlier,
yeah,
because we were excited when we listened to it the first time, and we're like, this is going to be awesome when it's released. Yeah, because I was just like, man, this is the great EP. So we're going to let everyone understand a bit more about Devotion to the Fear.
yeah.
Now, what you've described Devotion to the Fear is this EP is a darker and more honest version of Besomona.
Mhm.
It's heavy and aggressive, but still emotional, melodic, and memorable. Now, can you expand on what you mean by that and how this release represents the band's evolution?
Well, I guess it's just, you know, we made this EP like less complex when it comes to, like, the songwriting, the
Yep,
structure, I would say. The first EP was a bit, there's lots of prog elements in there, time signatures and all that. This one is very straightforward EP, man, just like, grabs you, and then you just, you with it, in the journey, like on a roller coaster, just crazy, like, and then the sound also proves that, that's why I think I called it a bit honest and more straightforward EP.
yep,
Darker, when, yeah, I guess it's just it's much heavier, because we use like a 9 string guitars over there, and then the tuning in some songs was quite different, and it wasn't like in C standard anymore, and it was like, yeah, we just used different guitars there, different sounds, and we used also modern, well, we used Kemper guitars, right? So Kemper amps, right? And we also
yep,
the DI signal was sent to like in multiple amps, and we want to create this modern sound, but also we didn't want to move ourselves away from this traditional, like melodic sound. So it's just and yeah, that was the idea, and plus we worked together with three different sound engineers, this time, and yeah, so that's why with this collaboration allowed us to create this massive sound, and the sound structure was also with, well, our producer that helped us with mixing, and also he gave us also good advice, how to structure songs. Some of them we had to rearrange,
yep.
and yeah, which was a good idea, and that's why this EP sounds a bit more modern, and more straightforward. And yeah, so this is it. And I see that's the way I see it, man.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've got one. This is your
Yeah,
first
I see that,
EP.
man. I just like, oh, this is our EP, man.
Disillusion Monster.
Yeah,
Like I probably like we haven't done an official review yet, so we'll be doing an official review. But so one of our contributors will review your upcoming EP
yeah.
for our official review. But I can tell you from my perspective, Dissolution Monster, good EP,
Mhm.
but Devotion to the Fear, there
Mhm.
has been a big changes in the evolution. You can argue, I mean, those that have listened will pretty much identify that with the Besomona sound, because you did say you used 9 string guitar. I take it that
Yeah,
was more Perco's direction because I didn't see you
no,
play
no,
your
no.
nine string.
No, look, in the beginning was a like if you listen to Imminent Lies, that's the first single, right? So there is um breakdown part,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like 15 seconds breakdown. So and in the original idea was to use just play a completely different part, right? It sounded a bit different on the demo, and we played that song live, a few times, and then we played that breakdown part completely different, right? It was like in C standard. It was good, but it wasn't good enough.
yeah,
So I thought, like, okay, that sounds okay, but I tried to use like an eight-string guitar, and then I came up with this riff. And my mate, Ice Cold Jack, he's like, he's also a guitarist. He
yeah.
actually owns one of those nine-string guitars, and I asked him, dude, can you, bring your guitar to mine? Let's try something else, something different, and yeah, and that's, we give it a go, gave it a go, and then that's an outcome, man. And I think it sounds epic. It sounds different, like, because you don't expect that in the song, it just, you
Yeah.
hear the song like in the C standard tuning, and then like suddenly, bam, there's nine-string guitar, and then it's like a nice breakdown. So yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. And also this EP, this is going to be very interesting because there's guest appearance. Chris Boddick, he's from In Flames and Ex Megadeth. He
Yeah.
contributed to one of the tracks, which was I remember that really well because you kind of go, Dan, do you know who's playing on the last track back at the
Yeah.
listening
Oh, dude, I
party?
was
And
excited,
then
man.
and I was thinking, hang on, this, and I'm like, when I heard, I was like, nah, it can't be Chris Brody. Can't. I'm like, I'll be shocked. But then you go, yeah, it's him. I'm like, oh, fuck. He's one of them, and he's a fucking awesome guitar player. I remember him from Nevermore days when he was,
Yeah.
before he joined Megadeth, Nevermore, it's one of my favorite metal bands
Mhm.
growing up, Nevermore, and I remember Chris Boddick, he was doing the tours, filling in slots as well. He's got to play with, you
Yeah.
know, good old Jeff there. But you also got Pearl Nielsen, Scar Cemetery, and Meshuggah also on the guest track, which is the current single, Element
Yeah.
Vice.
Yeah.
Um, I have a feeling I know how Pierre Nielsen may have got to the collaboration,
Yeah.
but can you tell us which track they appear on, which, for Chris, and
Mhm.
how those collaborations came about and what they brought to the songs?
Yeah. So with Chris Broderick, well, I'm gonna tell first about Per Nielsen, right?
Yep,
As you
yep,
know, we toured with Sky Cemetery. I mean, that's
yep,
obvious, right? I was like, well, we toured together for a week, and then became good friends, and then I had this idea, and actually, we had a chat. I remember we were drinking beer, and then after the gig, I remember I said, dude, like, it would be awesome to, if you could play a solo, on our, future song, like a EP, we actually was just EP was just an idea, I think, just
yep.
recording new songs were just an idea back then. And then he said, yeah, yeah, hit me up when you are ready. I said, cool, man. Okay, we got that sorted. And then I sent him a demo, a month after that, he liked the song. He said, cool, I'm going to do that. And that's whole thing happened. And then I thought, okay, cool, that's a great idea. Let's think about some other guest appearance. And this time we thought, okay, it would be good actually to add a guest on a song where we could use two solos. So one will be played by the guest, and the second will be played by Matt, right? So it would
Yep,
be
yep,
great to do that. So and then a few names, came to mind, and then one of them was Chris Broderick. I thought like, yeah, that's actually a good idea, like such a magnificent guitarist, and then he plays in one of the, my favorite bands in Flames. So and then
yeah.
I think I went to gig. We went there together. I remember that was in 2024, 2025.
Oh, when In Flames came in, is that
Yeah, with
when he
creative,
came
yeah,
with Crater? Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's how like I was like I was watching him again, like and then probably months after that, I thought, wow, actually, you know what? It's a good idea. Let me ask him and see what he says. And I just didn't have any expectations. I
yeah,
sent an email, and also what I did, I took a photo with him ages ago. Actually, I went to his uh one of these, like I think that he was presenting his Jackson guitars at the time. That was ages ago.
yeah,
And then I took a
yeah,
photo with him, and I sent me a nice email, include that photo, said, dude, you are great guitarist and all that stuff, and and I included the photo. I sent him a demo, and he listened to it, and he replied to it. I was like, "Oh, this is mad, man! Cool." He replied, and he said he literally liked the song, well, the demo. He
Yeah.
would love to participate. In fact, he said he would be honored to play on that. So I was like, "Oh, this is insane, man! This is getting better
Yeah.
and better." And then he only asked me to send him the lyrics because he didn't want to get involved in some, like, like political or
Yeah.
in some controversial topics, and also, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
play a solo for a controversial band. That's why I had to share all that stuff with him, tell him, what tempo we recorded the song in, and just give him all these details. And then, yeah, he took him a month, not because he was, it just, the recording didn't take him a long time, but because he was on tour with In Flames at that time. So
Yeah.
that's why he only had this little time, to spend on the solo. And I think it took
Yeah.
him, he sent me the first original one, and then it was great, but I didn't like the ending, so I asked him, could you record that part, that the
Yeah.
ending of it, and add a bit of harmonies in there, which he did, and then, yeah, so, and the solo just, it's so good, it aligns so well with the song, with the melodies, and then with the structure, and then, so basically, we haven't released that song yet, but it will be in September. So if you listen to it, you will hear the solo starts, solo starts in the middle of the song, and then Matt
Yeah.
ends his, Matt ends the song with his solo, which is actually a good combination. Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. I'm glad that you got that feedback from me, man. Like, I guess, you told us how the feedback, but when you reflected on now, how do you feel to hear comments from legends like, Chris Broderick, because I do consider him a legend in the scene, for what he's done with all the bands
Oh
that he's
yeah.
played with. And he's played with some of the best guitarists, Dave Mustaine, Jeff back in the Nevermore days,
Yeah.
and now is in Flames, oh, is it Bourne? Bourne's a good guitarist, he's the heart
Oh
of sort of,
yeah.
yeah, of In
He's, he's,
Flames.
he's a bit different. I
Yeah,
think
he's more with him, is he?
what's that?
He's more with him. Please
Yeah,
forgive
yeah,
me,
yeah.
I'm a bassist.
Yeah, he's a songwriter too, but yeah, he's less technical,
Yeah,
he's more rhythm guitarist, you're right. But Chris, yeah, he's also such a, like, down to earth guy, maybe you just,
yeah,
well, yeah. And when I met him ages ago, and also, like, through this, uh email exchange, he would always, like, be respectful and nice. And
yeah,
then you look back thinking, actually, that's a good accomplishment, because you can be proud that, there's a legend played on your song, wow, who
yeah,
played also, in bands like Nevermore, Megadeth, and, In
yeah,
Flames. Yeah, of course, I feel grateful. I think, you know that means we did something very good, and we well, the song actually was well structured. And then if Chris Broderick loved that song, and he actually, was able to record a solo
yeah.
on that one, I think that we did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's like probably my feedback on it. Like I still remember, I did listen to the EP before doing this interview with you, just to catch up to the sound. Because I remember it took me back to the listening party. That
Mhm.
is the last thing that stood up to me. That
Yeah.
song, just in general, that song just stood up. Not because Chris Broderick was playing, because I don't, as you know, I'm a bassist. I listen to the bass.
Yeah.
I like if it grooves, I look at it flows. I don't really pay attention. Oh, which guitarist plays there? That's just me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it really stand out as a listener. That track still stuck, and it's probably why, those who will listen to it, it's the last track of it. It's worth waiting for it because it does have that effect. When you watch a movie or you listen to a song and you want more,
Yeah. Yeah.
that actually does give that for, I do feel that. I think that there's a lot of credit, not just who, add that as well, but you did mention you had three producers on it, like you had Mark Clark, and if I to the grave, and he's a great producer. He's
Oh
got
yeah.
a
He's
great
great.
sound as well.
Yeah.
Um, Please, hope I do apologize for getting the surname wrong, Dr. Mike.
Yeah.
Mike Chubetskov,
Yeah. Mike Trubetskov. Yeah. He's the
and from Melbourne, and he's actually another great producer running around as well. He's been doing a lot of projects as well, and this is he's more into the modern stuff. And then you got Lance Prenet. I don't know much about Lance. If you can elaborate as well on him, but
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
so I guess yeah, I can tell lots of good things about all of them. We'll start with Matt.
yeah,
Matt Clark was involved in the beginning of the recording process. In fact, he helped us with drums, the
yeah.
arrangements, and all that stuff. So we booked a studio and for 2 days, and we were able to record drums within 1 day. So which was great, and thanks to him. Yeah, and he was like very supportive. He's like basically helping us with everything, and also was helping us to come up with the drum fills as well. Like he's always giving the good advice, like, oh, that would be that would sound good. Maybe you should change that part, and that's why and also the sound of the drums, massive, man. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So thanks to him, he actually done a tremendous job. Thanks to him, Matt, if you're watching us, yeah, thanks, man. And yeah, Dr. Mike Trubetskov, yeah, another legend from Melbourne, who's also a good friend of mine. Yeah, you're right. He actually works a lot with modern metal musicians, but he also does a job, with like traditional metal bands and rock bands. But his main bread and butter is like modern metal. So, which I think it's a great what he's doing because he always uses like always like a new products, and I'm talking about the VST plugins and
Yeah.
pedals and stuff, and that's why I really wanted to work with him because I really like his approach. He's very down to earth guy. He always helps, and he always delivers. If you don't like the sound, he's gonna make sure you like the sound. In fact, you're gonna love it. And that's why he's gonna spend you know all his time just to make sure you're happy with the outcome, with the product. So and yeah, so I flew to Melbourne a couple of times to work with him on the songs and on the sound particularly. And I think we recorded even vocals when I flew to Melbourne at that time. So not all the vocals, but just like some bits and
Yeah,
pieces,
yeah.
like back in vocals. Yeah, and um Lance Prank, yeah. So that another guy who's a legend from Melbourne as well. He actually is like a well-known sound engineer.
Okay.
So he works with bands like Alpha Wolf. In fact, I think he's their like sound guy. Actually, he tours with them, and and yeah, so also helps them with the production and all that. Yeah, for his main bands are Alpha Wolf and Polaris. So he
Oh,
did
okay. Yep. Yep.
yeah. So he did mastering for us. So which didn't take much time, it's like a final stage of the, after the
Yeah.
mix. So and then yeah, so that's why he boosted that sound. So that's why it sounds like it's like a punch in your face, man. Like boom, it's
Yep.
crazy, when you hear it. Yeah, so that's why like all the guys like they are professionals. They know what you're
Yep.
doing, and they have a great portfolio, all of them.
Yep.
So and that's why I really wanted to work with them and thought that okay, cool, I need to work with more people. I think it's a great idea because when we recorded the first EP, we did everything ourselves, and
Yeah.
that's you can understand why it sounds like that.
Mm.
But if you want to achieve like get a better sound, if you want to like make it sound more professional, my
Yeah.
recommendation is to always work with much more people. It will
Yeah.
help you to to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it feels like the devotion to the fear. It's more of a collaborating record, compared to Dissolution Monster. It's I guess it's just when you do your first EP, and it's a lot of bands that progress. It's natural. It's like what was good about the first recording, what can be better, what we'll do next time. You always get the time. That's always hindsight's a good thing. You get to reflect and then you get to grow and stuff. But I want to go back a bit more to the early roots, but
Hmm.
then also go back how lean into devotion to the fear.
Yeah.
Now the name Besomora draws
Mhm.
inspiration from Eastern Europe mythology. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
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 Um, and that influence also extends into the single Intimate Lies. What is about Eastern European folklore and mythology that continues to inspire your songwriting and the band's identity?
Uh, Look, the thing was that at that time, we started with a band with the original drummer.
Yeah.
You remember him? Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Daniel. Say,
Daniel. Yeah,
how
yeah,
can I forget my name?
yeah. So he is Croatian, right? So for
Yeah.
like, cool, it'd be a good idea to like use that our background in the name, right?
Yeah.
That's why like it just I was thinking like, okay, what can we bring that from our background? And then Slavic mythology is very like it's dark, and it's just so much stuff happening there, like lots of demons, there's dark
Yeah.
spirits and everything. And I went through this like that the articles about the demons and spirits, and I found like, okay, I found that there's a demon called Bes. It's
Yeah.
actually it's a male demon that causes rage, and then people go mad, right? That's Bes. And Mora is the female demon that comes to men's dreams and chokes them. So yeah, and I was like, cool. What if I combine those two like male and female demons together
Yeah.
and make a name out of it? So that's what I did, and that's why we have this name. And I get asked this question all the time, which is great. I think it's good because people are curious, and something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how it's actually well, um, how it works together with our sound and the band. Look, it's just I think a lots of songs they in especially early songs it was about like possessions, like and addictions that people have, and I think that's why I was all everything was revolving around about around the name at that time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all the songs basically majority of songs there about our you know about ourselves, about our past and our struggles in life, what do you call them, addictions, right? In many
Yeah.
yeah, in different ways. So yeah, that's why I think the name actually resembles, like, and also like represents our music so
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting, actually. Sometimes I think about it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, that's we came up that we came up with this name, and it's still relevant, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. It's cool, man. I always like the Slavic mythology. The Italians have their own mythology as well and folklore. Pretty much over around Europe and then Latin America. Every culture has one.
Yeah.
But I was good that like how you want to tie it to that kind of day, and
And,
it kind of works, man, in one way because it does create the mystery. The
okay.
name
And
itself.
also, you look, because your background, works so well when you write songs. It doesn't matter if
Mhm.
you play on guitar, because
Yeah,
you get that influence from your background, where you grew up, how you
yeah,
were born, and it's very
yeah,
important. That's why you can tell. In some countries, like they have very particular sound,
yeah.
like, I don't know, like first thing, like Rammstein, or like every all industrial metal most of it comes from Germany, right? And they have
Mm,
their own way of like or Swedish bands or Norwegian bands, they have their own signature sound, over there. Yeah, so, and that's why, because of the background, because the environment affects them.
yeah.
So yeah, that's, I guess, yeah, we made a good choice, by naming this band Besomora.
Nah, man. Well, I can, you and I, we both love our metal. We can always talk about metal and culture,
Yeah.
for hours,
Mhm.
But one thing that I probably, those who don't know the band, or follow Besomora, you've built a great resume since we shared that first gig when we played that first gig back in Dapto.
Yeah.
You've done support for Insolum, Blind Guardian.
Yeah.
Subcoptic.
Yeah.
I remember that you actually did a tour with Scar Cemetery. Is that correct? That
That's
was
right.
your first tour, a national tour.
That
So
was the first national tour. Yeah. There was, yeah, Scar Cemetery and us
yeah,
playing as, yeah, as a support act. Yeah, it was fun.
yeah, that was fun, man. Like, and people get excited, they're playing with these bands, but when you reflect later, because it can also be a learning curve as well for some bands that experience.
Yeah.
From your experience, excuse me, from your experience, what have those tours taught Besomora about performing, professionalism, and growing as a band?
Well, when you hang out with like musicians who are up there already, like
Yeah,
you see how professional they are, how they prepare it, it's very inspiring, man. I see like cool what you always learn, what to use, like what equipment they use, how they come up on stage, how they talk to the crowd, how they interact with them. It's very inspiring, and that's how you learn.
yeah,
And that's why it's just you always have to. I think that's great when you have an opportunity to like go on tour as a support act, or even like do a local show as a support act, with
yeah,
someone who is like, been touring for centuries, and know their job so well. No, it's just for me, it's very inspiring. I learn a
yeah,
lot. I just, by watching them playing, by seeing what they're doing, how they operate, and when you talk to them, like it's always like good to exchange your experience with them, and they know so much more, man. It's crazy, and then yeah, so it's always good to actually remain friends with them, So after the tour, you can chat to them, for Facebook or whatever. In fact, actually, I went to Sweden a few months after, and I
yeah,
stayed with their drummer's family, and yeah, with him, yeah, so it was good. Yeah, the rest of the guys were like, they live in Sweden, but they're so far away from each other.
yeah,
So and the drummer, yeah, so he lives in oh, not far away from Stockholm. And so, yeah, just, took a train, went to see him, and yeah, it was fun, man. So that's why, we still remain friends and still, occasionally talk to each other, always like send links to each other. And yeah, it's great, man. First of all, you remain friends with people you tour with.
yeah.
And you never know what happens in your life. You might see them again, maybe no, but you still have all those memories and you remember each other. I think that's the most important thing.
No, yeah, cool, man. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool because yeah, you are a friendly person, So if you ever see Vlad in the gig or supporting, man, if you like Besimo's sound, go walk up to him. He's a very friendly guy. Um,
Yeah,
I know that very well. But I want to ask you something a bit more deeper with
yeah,
touring, because because I never toured a band, I never supported a band in
yeah,
my career. And when I do a lot of interviews and ask a lot of bands, there's a lot to it that people don't realize. Now, correct me if I was wrong, but I'm pretty sure when Scar Cemetery was doing the tour,
Mhm.
you were the guitar tech for the tour. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was the guitar tech. Yeah, I was making sure that the sound wouldn't disappear,
Yep,
and guitars were like we're always like getting ready. But look, their setup was pretty basic, so I was stressed about like in the beginning. I was like, oh shit, like the Per Nilsson guitarist, that I'm gonna be his technician. And I had a chat with him, and dude, like I was like nervous, and
yeah,
he told me, dude, relax. I have a very basic setup. Don't worry, just make sure we have a sound. If something happens, there's a second guitar. Just need to swap them, and while
yeah,
fixing the first one, I can use the second one. So that's it. That was the responsibility. And I went through all this, like his rig and his pedals and everything what he was using to understand what happens in
yeah,
case
yeah,
something happens with his I think he was using like his pedals, like it was, I think, digital amp. I can't remember already,
yeah,
but yeah, so that was my responsibility for entire week,
yeah,
and luckily nothing happened.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah,
was ready because on tour it just you know that you think that, oh, it's gonna go well and stuff like that, but suddenly you don't have a sound. It happened to me quite a few times. When that you're 100% ready. You did some maintenance, you're well prepared, and suddenly sound disappears, and then you're like, why? What's happening? It might be because of the venue,
yeah,
because if you use wireless, you have to make sure that there's all the another other equipment, the stuff over there, like otherwise you might have issues. That's why was my major concern when I was touring, and with Scarcity, not as a member of the band but also as a technician. So
yeah,
yeah, like I said, nothing happened. So yeah, which is great. But that
yeah.
wasn't my last experience actually working as a tech. There was a couple other bands I worked with, but that was
Yeah.
after Scar Symmetry.
Yeah, cool. Because I was going, because basically, you know, supporting is not just playing a show on stage. It's what you've done. You know, it's behind the scenes. You know, that's because it's because it's all because they come from coming from Sweden or other parts of Australia.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap trip, and we kind of discussed a bit more about that in our publication. So it's kind of like it's good that you give them a good experience. You help them out because it makes their life easier in their tour. They can enjoy Australia as a country. So it's good on you, man. And well done for doing that stuff. You learn it personally as well, but you also like contribute as well behind the scenes. So you should be proud of that, man.
But also that was like, yeah, that was like their first time in Australia, so that's why you wanted to give them best experience.
Yeah,
Because it's stressful, man. It's like, going from there, like a 20, 30 hours trip. Then you have a jet lag. You come here like, I'm going on tour. You only have like 1, maybe 2 days max
yeah,
rest. And then you just go on tour, and in tour in Australia is not easy. And the problem is because of distance.
yeah,
In Europe somewhere you can take a bus, like, or hire a van. It's like, you
yeah,
can travel. I don't know, like traveling from Slovakia to Austria, it takes 1 hour by bus, man. That's it. You're already there. By car, it's probably half an hour, and you're already in a different country. Here, you have to catch a flight, to travel from, I don't know, Sydney to Melbourne, or if you want to go to Canberra, you still have to
yeah.
spend at least like a 3.5, 4 hours on in the car. That's why it's a challenge, man. That's why when bands come in here, you actually want to, make sure that they have best experience. Yeah.
Because yeah, man, like, that's one thing that I like about you. That's your passion. Music, metal is your passion. But you also have another passion that not many people might know of. Those that know you, but from when I hang out with you, you do like your spirits. You do like vodka.
Oh
And
yeah.
you're
Well,
always like, come on, drink, Dan, ding, come on, I won. The reason why I want to bring it up, because at the listening party, you were doing all the merch, but then you had Besomora vodka, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the honey flavor.
yeah.
So how did the idea came to create your own spirit, and is there still going to be an ongoing merch for the band?
No, we decided not to go ahead with that, but I was at that time was a good idea.
Yeah,
Trust me.
yeah.
We had a taste of it, which is great, man. Yeah, we had a few shots, I remember. Got drunk. Did you go to the distillery after that? No, you didn't. You did. Did you go to distillery? No, I think you left earlier, yeah?
I left earlier because I
Yeah,
think I think I went to I can't remember. I must have gone to a gig.
yeah. I think so. Yeah. I think you were going to the gig that day. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, look, I think that the time was a great idea, selling your vodka, but then we realized it would be so much hassle, later on. And then we just like got excited. I think the idea was to to do the party, right? And then, that's why we got the beers and then vodka and all that. And
yeah,
unfortunately, we were supposed to have those labels on the bottles, right? But never
yeah,
happened. So because there was some delays with shipping, not because it was our fault, but I think it's the company that promised to print them, they I don't know, like something happened with production.
yeah,
But yeah, we decided not to go ahead with that. It just different industry, man, and
yeah.
dealing with all that, I think we realized, okay, that'll be a bit of hassle for us. So that's why we scrapped that idea. But last year at that time, I think it was a good idea. Maybe because it was like kind of cold still, we thought like, well, maybe we should warm up, maybe make our vodka, man, and just make sure everyone's warm and happy. And then when summer hit, no, bad idea.
Yeah, like look, man. Credit to you for having a great idea. I always come up with some ideas at the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, that was a good idea. I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, okay, probably not the smartest idea, but it was good at the time.
Yeah, well, I think also like I think before that maybe it's not a good idea to associate us with alcohol. Like like we're not alcoholics, right? We love drinking sometimes, and then always every time we see like our friends, and we always like, yeah, let's have a shot, man. Let's have one. But doesn't mean that we actually sit at home and just having fucking shots of vodka after dinner. No.
Ah, well, right on. You ask because it's your favorite, like that's how I think that's one of our biggest bonds that I have with you. It's through vodka.
Yeah.
We could just Yeah, it's when you just talk privately, just talk about stuff and
Look,
stuff.
look, we can have a shot one next time we see each other at the gig or
Yeah. Well, speaking of that,
yeah.
you do have an important event in, I think it's September, Shredfest in Sydney. You're supporting Shredfest, yes?
Yeah, yeah. Is it 10th of September? I believe so, yeah. Which actually we have to promote this week. So there's just so much going on, and yeah, so very exciting actually. Yeah. Thanks to Anthony.
Yep.
If he's watching, yeah, man, really appreciate this opportunity because there's so many good bands there, man, and that look obscure. I know them for like at least 15 years. And when during my prog era, prog metal, I used to love listening to that kind of music, and now
Yep.
I listen to it less, but I still appreciate it.
Yep.
And I would never know, like, oh, this is for me like, wow, something surreal. Like I'm going to be playing on the same stage on the same night with Obscura, like wow. And of course, our local bands, got involved as well. And I think it's going to be a great night, man. It's going to be Shred Fest, they call it. Yeah, we're going to be shredding there like crazy.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a great event. We got links to the Sydney show and to national. It's going national. It's going to go in Darwin and the Northern
I know.
Territory. It's going all over New Zealand, all over. So this is a fantastic event, which is through the Shredfest and Blaney from Your Mate Booking. So we've got the links in the video, which will be in the video. Also in if it's on the magazine, it will be in the Gig Guides, National Guides as well, guys. So no excuse not to miss that one. Hopefully that I'm not really good at promoting stuff, so it's the best I could do, that kind of voice. But we're about to wrap it up. I've got one last question for you. I know I'll do thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Um,
Pleasure.
Now, our last question, but we wrap it up. Once listeners have experienced both Besomora EPs, so that will be the Dissolution Monster and Devotion to the Fear.
Mhm.
If they were to walk away with just one word or one lasting feeling about the band, what would you hope that is?
Chaos.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Can you extend on chaos?
I think the songs like on the well, particularly in the second EP, they are just mad. Like I would say, probably Madness will be like the second one. Like, okay, let Madness. That's probably what I'll be using. For
Yeah.
especially for the second EP, because all the songs they just like they wow. Once you like, look, I might be biased, towards my own music, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes I try to listen to my music as if I'm a listener, but not the person who created that those songs.
Yeah.
And then I just sometimes I'll just put my headset on and start listening to it, and they're all punching. They just always there's a madness and chaos happening. Like for throughout this EP. For like what 22 minutes if you listen to it. And since the beginning of the intro, right, and then all the way up to like the fifth song, which I believe the most chaotic one. Everything changes there. Like and the song's like what almost 5 minutes. But you mentioned earlier, right? It doesn't feel that way. You want to listen to it again and again.
Yeah, man. Like, especially when it does have that feeling. It
Yeah, and
does have
then
that feeling. Yeah, it does have that chaos devotion to the
yeah,
madness of the fear.
yeah, exactly. That's
Mate,
probably
great.
madness.
Yeah.
Yeah, madness would be like the perfect word, to describe that.
Yeah, man. Madness, madness, madness to the devotion.
Yeah.
Mate, again, the EP's coming up. I do wish you all the success off that release. I do think it's going to go well. And all the best of luck with the band for the rest of the year. Yeah, man, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.